Hey guys, welcome back to A Page in the Chapter, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Paige and today it is time for quite possibly the shortest TBR video I have ever done. So I do TBRs, or if you are very new to BookTube, TBRs are to be read piles every single month. So you can go check out all of them in a playlist entitled TBRs, and if you like TBRs then you probably like wrap-ups, so you can check out all of my wrap-ups in a playlist entitled, you guessed it, wrap-ups. They are listed on my channel. But I am a mood reader, but I really need some structure to my reading, otherwise I'll read barely anything in a month. I mean, I'm reading barely anything in a month at the moment now anyway, as you will see in my wrap-up, but I need some structure to my moods. So what I've kind of been doing lately is, rather than like a set TBR that I have to stick to, I just give myself some options for the month and then I can mood read based on those options. So if you guys like seeing TBRs and wrap-ups, then do feel free to hit that big red subscribe button down below. I upload twice a week on a Wednesday and a Friday, so there is no shortage of bookish content here for you to enjoy. And as I said, I post TBRs and wrap-ups every single month, so if you subscribe then you know that you'll always be getting to see them. And now let's get into the books. I'm sat down today and it feels very weird. I normally stand up for my videos, but I'm feeling very lazy, hence why I have my artificial energy source with me today. Right, so the first book that is on my March TBR I have already started. I am a good quarter, maybe third of the way through. It's one of my most anticipated releases. It was one of the whole community's most anticipated releases. You probably already know what I'm talking about, and that is House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J Maas. This is the second book in her Crescent City series. The first one was House of Earth and Blood. It looked a lot like this, except it was a red cover, if that helps you think of it at all. But yeah, this is the second book. It came out in February. So many people have already read this book. I have seen so many tweets about the ending of this book, and I don't know if it's a heartbreaking ending or a cliffhanger ending. From some of the tweets I'm thinking maybe a cliffhanger ending, but I'm just kind of taking my time with this. Where am I at? I'm on page 359, which is about there. So good chunk of the way through it now. It's a massive book, but I will say the pages are quite thick, the writing is quite big. You find yourself getting through it a lot quicker than you would think for an 800-page book. Although I took this to work with me and I got a lot of comments about how I was reading a Bible. And in some ways, I am. But yeah, so I have started this. I don't really want to give away any of my thoughts in this TBR video. So the first book, we followed Bryce and Hunt as they are looking into the death of Bryce's friend group and Danica and getting to the bottom of what demon was loose in the city that was killing them. This book is set a couple months after the events of the first book. We are again still following Bryce and Hunt, but this is much more of a multiple POV, and we follow Bryce as she is still kind of dealing with mysteries that Danica has left her behind. I don't want to spoil anything from the first book, but yeah, there's still a mystery involving Danica and Bryce and Hunt, along with a whole ragtag group of really random people from the first book are now essentially linked and teamed up and having to investigate this, and it's really, really high stakes. It's definitely worth reading on, I would say, and I'll be able to tell you how worth it is when I get to the end. I'm a little unsure about it right now. The first book, there's a lot of complaints about it being really slow, and I didn't get that with the first book. I flew through the first book, could not put it down, was absolutely obsessed with it, and so far I'm not getting that feeling with this book. There are parts of this book where I'm reading it and I'm like, okay, I'm a little bored, but I'll let you know when I get to the end because I don't think it's fair to judge it yet. So yeah, this is the main priority for the month of March. I really want to get this book finished. It is a really big book though, so I don't want to give myself a huge TBR and then spend too long reading this. I don't want to ruin my whole mentality towards reading by giving myself some huge TBR and then this taking me most of the month to read. This is the main priority, and then the rest of them are kind of just there. So then, aside from House of Sky and Breath, we have 4 options for books that we could read. They are all really random. So if I stay in a fantasy mood, we have Furyborn by Claire Legrand. This is the Imperium trilogy, book 1. It's a trilogy. I don't really feel like starting another trilogy right now, so I feel like maybe not. But I did make really good progress this month with some series, so maybe I can reward myself. I doubt it though. I don't know. I just wanted a fantasy option that I didn't have to go out and buy. This is like a royal fantasy. We follow two women thousands of years apart with very different lives. For the older background, we follow our queen, and she has to undergo these trials to prove that she is magical, and if she fails, she's executed, but the trials also might kill her in the process, so she can't really win. And then thousands of years later, we have another woman, and we follow another woman, and she has obviously heard the tales of the previous woman, and she thinks that she's untouchable until her mother goes missing, and then she joins up with a rebel captain and discovers the evil residing in her city. This book gives me Queen of the Tearling vibes, Three Dark Crown vibes, just, you know, royal, strong female lead kind of YA fantasy, and I'm willing to give it a go. So then the next option that I have for the month of March is another one that I think is probably going to end up being quite a big book, and so maybe not, but this is another one of my most anticipated releases for the year, and that is Gallant by V.E. Schwab. The problem with this is that I'm a little worried that I am not going to get this book. I did pre-order it. I pre-ordered the signed edition because it's V.E. Schwab and I love her so much, and I really wanted the signed edition of her new book. But I had a message from Waterstones saying that it wouldn't be delivered for another couple weeks, and I just thought, okay, maybe they've pushed back the publication date. And then I saw on V.E. Schwab's story that no, they hadn't, and it was released yesterday, and no sign of this book or it being dispatched or anything. So, but this book has been released. I think Waterstone said I should get it on like the 10th of March maybe, so that still gives me the rest of the month to read it if I want to. So I'm gonna give myself this one as an option, but I also feel like I might want to dedicate a whole month to this book in the same way that I did with House of Sky and Breath, because I'm so eagerly anticipating its release. So Gallant is a story that V.E. Schwab said that she kind of came up with years ago and then revisited in 2020 when we went into that first lockdown, and it follows our main character Olivia Pryor, I believe, and she has been invited to stay with like a long lost relative at his house named Gallant, and when she's like there playing in the garden and exploring the house, she realizes that the house is kind of like on a boundary with the magical as well as the real. I believe it's like that kind of premise for a book, and she like discovers this whole kind of magical adventure in this house. And so I'm just so excited about this book. I would have been excited about it anyway, but then hearing V.E. Schwab talking about how the book was so inspired, about how she had this like general idea for a book, and then going into lockdown she was like, I just have to write this one now. I don't know, there's something about it that just really makes me want to read this book, and I'm really excited about it, and I think it's going to be one of my favourite V.E. Schwabs just by the plotline. So I'm hoping I will get to this one either this month or next month. Again, this one is very dependent on whether Waterstones can get their crap together and mail it to me. Where do you guys pre-order your books from? Because I don't want to do Amazon anymore. I feel like that's just not a good place to be pre-ordering books and supporting authors, but also they don't tend to do like special editions, and if I'm gonna pre-order, kind of want to get a special edition. But Waterstones never seem to get me my books in time. House of Sky and Breath as well took ages to arrive. So like, where is a good place to pre-order books from? Let me know where you guys do it. Now we're kind of getting into the weird books that I said that I picked up when I went shopping this past month. I picked up a copy of Antony and Cleopatra, and I got the Arden Shakespeare edition because I love Arden Shakespeare editions. The introductions are honestly like more fun than the actual plays themselves sometimes. They really like go in depth explaining the plotline, explaining the social history, explaining Shakespeare's influences, explaining how it would have been performed and the effect that that would have had on society at the time. Like really just going in depth, teaching you everything you could possibly need to know about Antony and Cleopatra. Like they're very much like study guides as well as the actual text. And that's kind of what I'm looking for when I want to read Shakespeare. I want to know all of that context and social history. But yeah, I love these. The reason that I went with Antony and Cleopatra though, I was really leaning towards Troilus and Cressida, but Chloe Gong is currently writing or in the process of getting published an Antony and Cleopatra retelling, I believe, if her TikTok is anything to go by anyway. So I thought maybe I will read Antony and Cleopatra and I will learn all of this history and analysis, and then I'll be able to approach her book whenever she's ready for it to be released. I'm assuming it won't be for another couple of years, with a load of knowledge about it. This one has been on my list for a while anyway. That was just the big like push to finally read it. I've just decided that I'm gonna be that person who reads Shakespeare for fun. Someone's gotta be that person, and I will take one for the team, and it will be me. And then the final book is actually a non-fiction, which I said that I wanted to read more non-fiction this year. There is something holding me back from this book, and I will explain once I've shown you the book. And so that is Written in Bone by Sue Black. If you've seen any of my like archaeology, anthropology recommendations, forensic science recommendations, any of those, this is on there. I've read All That Remains by Sue Black. That was her first book. And my biggest complaint of that book was that it was more about Sue Black's life in general and how working with death has impacted her life outside of work, and not enough for me about her work as a forensic anthropologist. And then she must have heard me complaining, because she released this book, Written in Bone, which is about her work as an anthropologist. It is just about the bones. It's like split up into, you know, part 1 is the cranial bones, part 2 is the postcranial axial bones, part 3 is the limbs, you know, like it's just split up into the human skeleton. If you are new here, this is very much my vibe. I'm starting a forensic anthropology master's in September, so the reason that I desperately like want to read this but I'm kind of putting it off is I'm thinking maybe I should read this closer to when I start my master's degree, because I'm gonna get really obsessed with my future degree when I read this, and if I read it now then that obsession is gonna like dwindle and have nowhere to go. Whereas if I read this late summer when I'm about to start uni anyway and I'm already excited and motivated, and then we can just add to that motivation and it will like kind of kick me back into gear. I do also really want to read it, and I can always reread it, and there's other forensic anthropology books out there, so I've decided that I will add this one to my TBR because I really want to read it, and maybe I should just read the books that I want to read when I want to read them. Like maybe reading shouldn't be so difficult. This is on my TBR. I really want to get to it. Feeling good about my choice to study forensic anthropology at the moment, and the fact that I saw this book in the store as well was just another huge sign. So this is on my TBR. And so yeah, this is my TBR. It is 4 physical books, and then obviously I'm still waiting on Gallant to be delivered. So it is 5 books, which is one of the shorter TBRs. I think reading 5 books is a little unlikely for me, especially when one of them is as big as Crescent City Book 2 is. I obviously haven't seen the size of Gallant, but knowing V.E. Schwab, it's going to be a full-size fantasy, like probably 400 pages. It's unlikely that I will get to all of these, but as I said, my TBRs nowadays are mostly just options to guide my reading and allow me to like mood read and still read what I want. I want to take my time with books and really enjoy them, which is why the dedication of the month is Crescent City Book 2. If it takes me the whole month to read that, but I don't feel pressured into reading it, then I will be super happy with myself. Like, that's all I really want. So anyway, that was a tangent, but I hope you understand where I'm coming from. I do hope that you guys have enjoyed this video. As I said, if you want to see more TBRs, or even, you know, if you like TBRs, you probably like wrap-ups, then I have dedicated playlists for those things. You can check them out. You can also hit that big red subscribe button down below, because I upload twice a week on a Wednesday and a Friday, so there's no shortage of bookish content here for you to enjoy. And then you'll always see my TBRs and wrap-ups and any of my other content throughout the month too. There's a lot of reading vlogs if you're into those, so you know, why not just stick around for a little while? It's a nice place to be here. I hope you guys are having a fantastic week, you are enjoying everything that you are reading, and there are no reading slumps in your future, and I will see you on Friday for my next video. Bye guys.